much. And thank you everybody for taking the time to join us today. We're excited to have you sit and listen with us over the next 30 minutes talking about something that we think is kind of important, and we hope that you think it's important to you as well, and that's the topic of runtime fees and how they affect your organization. What we're going to try to do today is talk about runtime fees in your environments, why they really matter. We also want to talk about performance and business agility. We think that it's important that you can combine getting optimum performance with agility of your applications, and that's obviously very important. This particular audience, and I actually have some old friends who I've worked with in the past who look like they've joined us today, seems to be made up of people who today are using COBOL compilers from maybe some other vendors, and in many cases those vendors are where you face an ongoing challenge of increasing costs, we feel. I really want to spend some time talking to you about the types of conversion services that we hope would be important to you as you consider COBOL alternatives as you move forward. And we'd also like to take a look at some of the technologies that we think are important for you to look at that could be at your disposal that can help you build more responsive, more agile, and most importantly, more cost-effective applications. So the first question, why do runtime fees matter? Well, in our opinion, every dollar that you have to spend or your customers have to spend, that really makes obtaining a solid ROI that much more challenging for your or your customers' application environments. And if you're competing against other companies in that you provide software to your customers, if your customers have to pay runtime fees for the right to run your software, and they don't have to pay runtime fees for the right to run your competitor software, well, the way we look at it, that puts you at a competitive disadvantage. Runtime fees can, in fact, be a significant portion of your ongoing expenses and your customers' ongoing expenses. For many companies, we view it that the cost of running your software is obviously a very significant expense, as I say, and it's an ongoing expense. Imagine, and I bet this is true for many of you, you may have developed a program or application 20 years ago and not really have changed it once since then. That's one of the beauties of COBOL as I see it. You know, it works well and it works consistently. It is designed for the long haul. But for those environments where you've developed an application and you continue to sell that application, the question we ask ourselves is, does it make sense for you to have to pay runtime fees every time a new user of that program comes along, whether you're developing for in-house or whether you're developing for a customer for something that you're selling? If you sell your software, either you have to eat the cost of those runtime fees or you have to pass it along to your customers, and that causes the fees that you charge to raise. And again, it talks about a competitive disadvantage. So by being able to better maintain those charges, we think it puts you in a better position to be able to grow your business, in all honesty. There's also the cost of, many companies are audited by their COBOL providers or their language providers, where they have to take the time, effort, and energy of keeping up with every user of their applications. And there's a cost associated with that. The question is, how much is that cost? Well, maybe it's having personnel on staff who have to keep up with the auditing responses for your vendors so that you know where all of your customers are and that you validate that everything is valid in their sites. And that's hard to manage and it's expensive. I also said that I wanted to talk about performance. Why does performance matter? Well, performance has to do with competitive advantage as well. The model that many of you, I think, probably have seen, and it's been a very productive one for you, is that there's value in a compile once, run anywhere model. But we like to think that there's also a cost. And sometimes that cost has to do with performance. We have prided ourselves on saying that we want to provide the best running platform that we can, regardless of the environment in which you're going to deploy your applications. So we don't necessarily think that always a one-size-fits-all model is the best model to follow. For companies that have lots and lots of data to process and a short time in which to process it, well, for those companies, performance definitely matters. And so that's why we think that having solutions that are very scalable is very critical for you. You really need to be able to depend on your COBOL systems to be able to grow as you grow. The bottom line to us is that you need performance in two major areas: processing data and making that data available quickly and easily to your users. And those users can be in-house or they can be outside customers. And being able to handle ever-changing technologies is important as well. So being able to ensure that you can get optimum performance for the environment where you're deploying your applications, being able to continue to depend on your systems being able to scale as your business grows is very, very important. And there's a cost associated with that, and that runtime charge in an environment where you're paying to run in a single environment can help you in that regard. So along with the idea of not having to pay runtime fees, another important matter for companies that we think exists is to ensure that their applications are agile. Keeping risk to a minimum as you make your applications more available to a wider selection of users is critical. And one way to accomplish that is to open your systems up. A way that we have found to be very effective is to provide the ability to make your applications available via web services. And a very important element of doing that is really ensuring that you use tools that adhere to industry standards. We think it's very important that you don't use a black box approach to that kind of effort. You don't want to paint yourself into a corner where you're tied to a particular vendor or a particular environment to be successful, at least in our viewpoint. The model that seems to make the most sense for our customers has been adhere to standards, have a well-performing environment where you can control your costs. When we look at it, our viewpoint is this industry is ever-changing. Man, Marge said 25 years. She was being very kind. I've been doing this for about 40 years, and it's amazing what we can do now with applications and the way we can provide environments and tools to our customers to help our businesses grow. And that's exciting, obviously. But the fact that this industry is ever-changing means we have to be able to respond to it quickly. You really can't afford to be left behind in this environment. Your competitors are going to continue to grow. Your company is going to face challenges in its own marketplace. And being able to modernize your applications, make them available, control costs with them, that's very important, even if you really have to take small steps to get to where you want to go. I think a perfect example of that is the use of mobile devices today to make your applications more available. So there are tons of customers who have changed their paradigm of how their data and their applications are presented. They're able to explore completely new markets by making their applications be accessible from multiple methods. So think about smartphones today. They didn't exist when I started 40 years ago. The cool thing is that same COBOL application on which I, or maybe some of you worked back in the beginning of our careers, can still be perfectly viable. And it can be accessible by those kinds of devices, those kinds of methods. Using things like web services, being able to open your applications up to web services really makes you able to take advantage of all the things that you've done, all the work that you've put in over the years to be able to be responsive to your own customers. And talking about those COBOL applications, think about that COBOL application that you wrote when you very first started in your career. And now you want to make it available to a completely new environment. You want to be able to have every customer in the world who has a smartphone able to use that application. Well, think about if you had to take the level of effort to keep up with every user of your application, and there had to be a runtime fee associated with it. To us, that's just not a very practical model to work from, and it can restrict what you're able to do. So we have always felt, and we are quite Microsoft-centric in what we do in many of our regards, I know, but we have felt that the Microsoft model of saying you can develop an application and run it wherever you want is the right model. That's the reason we've never charged runtimes, and we think that it makes sense. If you have an environment where you're developing in C# or VB.NET, you can deploy that application anywhere. Why should COBOL be any different? So let's talk about how we take advantage of these topics that we've talked about today. Specifically, we wanted to take some time to existing customers of AccuCOBOL GT and Microfocus environments to talk about NetCOBOL as an alternative for you. Now, I have to say I have a fond place in my heart for both of those environments. I was a Microfocus customer for 13 years. I was a systems engineer for them for a little while. I was a senior systems engineer with AccuCOBOL. Those are great environments. They're great products. And many of you have been successful with them, and that's fantastic. But if you have pains that are associated with the runtime charges, we kind of excited to say that we have in place tools that can help you as you overcome those situations where you're adversely affected by runtime fees. So for AccuCOBOL GT customers, I readily recognize how effective and beneficial, especially the graphical capabilities are to you, and how you can make your applications more productive, more sellable, able to move forward with them as you expand your customer base. Their screen handling capabilities with Thin Client and Web Thin Client and the other technologies makes that a very, very helpful development environment. And for Microfocus customers, that has been such a well-performing environment for years and years and years. But being able to have the same benefits at much lower costs and to, we hope, be able to position yourself to be able to expand your applications would be a benefit for you. And for those Microfocus customers, our new tooling allows you to run in a no runtime fee environment, even keeping your existing files in place. Our experience has shown that you can actually get better performance using NetCOBOL. I won't say that it's true in every case, but in our competitive studies so far, that has certainly been the case, that you can get superior performance. And this tooling that we're talking about for COBOL conversions for Microfocus has extensive libraries that allow you to take care of the syntactical differences in two languages. So really what we're talking about today is an exclusive migration solution that we're excited to be able to present to you that gives you the ability to migrate your existing environment to an environment which we hope would be more cost effective for you, make you more agile in what you do. It's made up of migration services and COBOL tools. It allows conversion of and to graphical user interface screens. It gives the ability to provide easy web browser-based interfaces with advanced printing and electronic PDF creation, so that you have a set of tools that allow you to extend your applications and at the same time not have to say, you know, it's just too expensive for me to follow the model that I'm following, and I'm going to absorb the risk of rewriting my applications to a language where I don't have to pay runtime fees. Now, we all know that in any migration, and you know, we all have the experience of doing this, there will be things that just aren't handled automatically. So we recognize that there still is work involved, but we've automated a large portion of that effort, whether you're an AccuCOBOL customer or a Microfocus customer, in an effort to help minimize that risk and at the same time help you plan for keeping your costs under control. By providing these services and tools, what we really want to do is to help you find ways to be more competitive and more effective. Your applications are the lifeblood of what you provide, whether you're doing it in-house or selling your services and tools outside of your own company. It's the thing that makes you unique against your competitors. So by being able to expand your capabilities in the areas of printing, accessibility, distribution of your information, all without having to worry about runtime fees is important. And we like to think that these tools that we are now providing can be of an assistance to you if those challenges that we talked about earlier are something that you face every day. So let's just take a quick look, just to kind of give you a feel of what we're talking about. Here is an example of the graphical conversion portion of this tooling that we have put together. I'm showing a screen that's near and dear to my heart, one that comes from the AccuCobol sample directories, a graphical screen put together with AccuCobol, the GT portion of it, using their screen technology. This is so much more sellable, we feel, as AccuCobol felt when I worked there, where you can go out and make a more modern look and feel for your applications. So rather than having a 24/7 green screen with just a standard display and accept, we get the benefits, we understand the benefits of having scroll bars, of having drop-down list boxes, of having tabs, of having menus. What we have been able to do is provide tooling that in this after picture shows you that same program after a conversion where you get the same benefits. The difference is you're running here with NetCobol, Fujitsu's NetCobol. GT Software is the worldwide distributor for Fujitsu's NetCobol everywhere in the world outside of Japan. We sell and maintain and support it. And it is a really, really wonderful and solid COBOL. As I mentioned, I work for AccuCorp and Microfocus and a couple of other COBOL providers over my career, and I am extremely impressed with the quality, accuracy, and performance of the NetCobol compiler. I think the Japanese development team does a fantastic job. So being able to get that superior performance with a COBOL that you can depend on today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, and still take advantage of the graphical capabilities is a huge plus. And that's why we think this is a nice combination of tooling for conversion and COBOL as people look to move forward. So while the tools we've talked about will help you to transition to an environment in which you're perhaps familiar today, one of the most exciting things we think it does is allow you to reach a stepping stone so that you can start using a different set of tools. For us, we happen to think the Microsoft tools are fantastic in that regard. I have up here Visual Studio 2012. We think that that's a premier development and deploy arena for developers today for COBOL. And the beauty of it is you still don't have to worry about runtime fees as you progress there. So Visual Studio 2012, along with NetCobol, gives you and your developers a development area that makes it easier to process your applications, develop your applications, and deploy your applications in a quicker and safer manner. NeoData is a tool that we provide that allows you to take your existing ISAM files. So for AccuCobol users, those really solid, well-running Vision files that you're working with. Imagine being able to take that data, store that data inside of SQL Server without having to change your COBOL logic at all. So combining the benefits of Microsoft SQL Server with the benefits of GT Software's NeoData allows you to do that. The goal is to be able to help you put your data in a place that makes it more accessible, more sellable in all honesty, without having to absorb the risk of rewriting your software. And the cool thing then is once you get your data in that environment, then you get to take advantage and grow what you do with your applications using what Microsoft provides. Tools like Microsoft Reporting Services, where you can go through and quickly generate extremely impressive, powerful, drill-down type reports on your data, gives you a way of doing that that you couldn't really do in just an ISAM type file structure. So that's really important as you are able to compete against your competitors in your industry or by being able to provide a better operating environment for your customers if you're developing in-house. It's a great environment to work in. We also think that being able to use the .NET framework as you move forward, if that makes sense to you, better helps you to present your data and make it more widely available. The ability to access mobile devices is a prime example there. Why write everything from scratch? Try to find the industry standards that make the most sense and position yourself with something that you know will perform well today and tomorrow, where you can control your costs. The whole topic of this webinar was runtime fees, and I hope we've presented throughout that you see benefit from runtime fees, whether you're talking about controlling costs, ensuring that you get agile development environments, or ensuring that you get the optimum performance that you get. That's a pretty cool combination of being able to work with applications moving forward. So that's really what I had to present today and talk about. I wanted to first thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. And I'll go ahead and mention a couple of things. If you have any requests for more information, please just reach out to us. We can be reached at netcobol@gtsoftware.com. Or if we can help by providing an analysis of your applications to help determine how easy or hard a migration might be for you, we'd be delighted to do that. As I said earlier, there are always going to be some challenges. I use this analogy often. For those of you here in the United States, maybe this will make more sense. There's a company called Staples. They're an office supply company, and they have an advertisement where it's an easy button, and you press this button and things are just handled. Well, in this industry, there really is no easy button, but we hope that we've provided the set of tools that will make these migrations much easier for you if you're seeing some of the reasons to look at alternatives that we've discussed today. So with that, Marge, if you're okay, I'd kind of like to open this up and see if we've had any questions that come in to see if I can answer them.
Sure, we've had a few, and I'd still like to invite the audience to submit their questions under the questions tab on the right side, most likely on the right side of your docking station. So the first one that I've received is, how much can I expect to save by eliminating runtimes?
That's a great question. And obviously it depends. There are different sets of models out there for everybody. And one of the things that, while you can judge what you're paying today in runtime fees, that we think is important is looking what the charges would be moving forward as your business grows, as I'm sure you hope it does grow, trying to ascertain how much you can save coming back. I think is very important. We have seen customers save significant amounts of money so that it has helped pay for the cost of migration for them. There is no one-size-fits-all, obviously, but we would love to have the chance to talk to you to help you understand what the cost of a conversion and migration and use of NetCobol could be, to see if this makes sense for you to explore.
Great. And the next one it's regarding graphical capabilities. Do I have the ability to extend my graphical capabilities?
Yes, great question. Part of the tooling for especially the AccuCobol type customers who are using AccuBench generated applications today, the tooling that we're talking about provides the ability to have changes made to screens quite easily, to take advantage of new controls that are out there that give you the ability to extend your applications as the industry extends. So by being able to have ongoing access to a tool that lets you do drag and drop to your screen environments, still interfacing to your COBOL applications, we think that absolutely you have the ability to work with your applications in a continuing modernization effort as you're looking to move forward.
Great. And we did have some additional questions coming in. If you will, Walter, look at those, I'm going to allow you to decide which ones to pick, since there's several coming in.
Okay.
And we will answer these afterwards.
Okay.
And if
Does NetCobol support AccuGT grid screen controls? Yes, we should be able to provide the similar functionality for grid processing as you're moving forward.
Great.
And the question was, how does Microsoft Reporting Services access the ISAM data? Well, by itself, it would not. What Microsoft Reporting Services does in conjunction with NeoData, that's what allows you to access that data as you're moving forward. In essence, what we're talking about doing is taking your indexed file structure systems, using NeoData to write the data directly out to Microsoft SQL Server. You don't have to change your COBOL reads and writes, opens and closes at all. You're leaving the syntax exactly the same. The difference, though, is that data is now accessible for reporting services since the repository of that now is Microsoft SQL Server.
Great. And I have one or two more. The next one is, how hard is the typical migration?
That's obviously a tough one. Again, the one-size-fits-all model just doesn't exist in this mode. We have a questionnaire that we provide that we hope helps us define this on a case-by-case basis. What we've tried to do is to go through and define those things that are unique to AccuCobol and unique to Micro Focus, those what I call intrinsics, really cool tools that both have provided over the years. Some of the things we can handle right out the box. Some of the things have to be remediated. But by taking a look at the questionnaires, we can help define how challenging a particular application might be. Sometimes it can be very, very easy. The more intrinsics you have used that are unique to a particular environment, obviously the more challenging it is. But we hope that we could help you get a better feel for that as you're moving forward.
Okay, great. And I know we're getting a ton of questions, and I don't know if we're going to have enough time to answer them all. So my thought is, what we can't answer today, we can reply back privately and help everybody with their questions.
Marge, I think that's a great idea. We will absolutely, for everyone who submitted a question that we didn't have time for today, get a response back to you. And again, thank you everybody for joining us today. If you have other questions, netcobol@gtsoftware.com. Please let us know if there's any way that we can help, and we're excited to help you look at new alternatives as you continue to grow your organizations and opportunities. Marge, thanks very much.
You're welcome, Walter, and thank you, audience. And again, there is a recorded version of this webinar. You are welcome to download that and forward within your own organizations. We really appreciate your time, and we look forward to having you as an audience member in the future. Thanks, Walter.
Thanks much. Bye-bye, everyone.